Breaking news. Bitcoin keeps dropping. And one question is on your mind. Why?
In a shocking survey, we found that 100% of viewers of this channel are interested in learning why Bitcoin is dropping.
That's right. Believe it or not, people want to know why Bitcoin is going down in value. Why it just doesn't respond like it did back in the good old days of 2017. Remember in 2017 where we had a drop and it started up here at $5,000? Within no time, we had dropped down to just $3,000, under $3,000. Shortly thereafter, we were all the way up at $20,000. That's right, from $5,000 down to $3,000 and then up to $20,000. Now, why didn't that happen again in 2018? Why, Elio Trades? Why? Looking at 2018, we took a steep decline from $20,000, at one point going under $6,000, again recently going under $6,000, and now we're approaching those lows once more. We just took a huge jump today from about $6,800 down all the way to about $6,400, and it looks like there's more blood to come. Why is this continuing to happen? And why haven't we had the response like we did back in 2017, where we dropped almost 50% in value, but very rapidly recovered back not only to those original values, but much, much higher? First, we need to take a stern look at the Bitcoin markets and ask ourselves, what caused those highs of 2017 in the first place? The number one place we have to look for answers is China.
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 China. China.
China.
China.
China.
China.
China.
China.
A recent report by the PBOC, the People's Bank of China, has recently shed some light on this entire debate. And that's because right now, apparently, the Chinese yuan accounts for less than 1% of the Bitcoin transactional market, meaning there is less than 1% of Bitcoin being bought with Chinese yuan. However, according to the very same report, the Chinese market accounted for over 90% of Bitcoin transactions in 2017. That's right, 90% down to 1%. Now, the Chinese government has celebrated this as a triumph, showing that their ban on cryptocurrencies has been a tremendous success, that they're able to control the behaviors and the investment behaviors of their people, essentially. While that might be a tremendous success for China, it's also a huge hole in the Bitcoin armor. That's like saying, hey, you're a professional high jumper, and after jumping the highest you've ever jumped, we're gonna take away your legs, one of your arms, your torso, and ask you to jump higher than you've ever jumped before. Actually, that's a horrible metaphor, and I wish I didn't say it at all, but you get the point here. We have 90% of our market that's been taken away. And yet still, Bitcoin is worth over $6,000, where 1 year ago today, it was worth $2,500, or slightly less actually. So we're more than 2 times the value, even with 90% of our original market being taken away. To make matters worse, we've had tremendous setbacks in the Korean market. The Korean market was such a hotbed of trading activity that it was known for something called the Kimchi Premium. Obviously, if you're familiar with cryptocurrency trading, you'll know this concept, but just refer to this chart and you can see that the Korean markets were paying up to 50% more per coin than the rest of the world. That's how thirsty this market was for crypto assets. Right now, that market has been set back to at times paying even less than the average price for Bitcoin, and you can see from this chart that the trend holds true for the Kimchi Premium across other altcoins. However, now the Kimchi Premium, as they say, has all but disappeared, and that's because of a complete lack of regulatory clarity in Korea as far as crypto assets and how they're going to be regulated. Now, we keep hearing time and time again how South Korea is about to start regulating cryptocurrency exchanges as banks, and they're about to ease their regulations on ICOs, and that all this stuff is just about to happen, and everybody immediately turns around and says, okay, well, let's start the moonshot now. Well, unfortunately, none of it's happened yet. So how can we expect for there to be a tremendous change when not a single law has been passed in Korea as it pertains to cryptocurrency assets? Nothing has changed. The only thing that's changed so far is that China has completely shut down crypto trading domestically, and Korea has thrown a tremendously wet blanket on crypto trading domestically as well. Two of the most important markets in cryptocurrency have been chopped down to their knees, And now we're expecting for the same kind of bounce back without any changes to the fundamental landscape. Now, uncertainty in the Chinese market and the Korean market are things that we can't really control, but the things that the crypto community can control are advancements in the underlying technology of, let's say, Bitcoin. We all know that the fees around the Bitcoin network were exorbitantly high during the grand rush of 2017 when everyone and their mom were buying Bitcoin. Obviously, fees were way too high to buy that proverbial cup of coffee that everyone likes to talk about. But since then, we've had the implementation of Lightning Network. And the way Lightning Network works is the more nodes there are, the more capital on the network, the more successful it will be. But right now, Lightning Network is still in its growing process. And as you get bigger and bigger transactions, and I'm not talking millions of dollars, I'm talking several hundreds of dollars, they start to become less and less successful. Now, of course, with time and adoption, Lightning Network has grown exponentially month over month, but is still not at the point where it's processing 100% accurate transactions, and there's still not a Lightning Network wallet that has become tremendously popular. There are still a few missing pieces to make Lightning Network super easy to use for everyone. Although SegWit has been adopted, although fees are very low right now, the reality is that this isn't really a stress test period because there's not enough transactions flowing through the network for us to really know whether Bitcoin can handle scale right now. Although with Lightning and a few other advancements like with SegWit, we can see that Bitcoin is getting ready for scale. It's still not quite there yet, even though it's very, very close. So we need to ask ourselves, how can we expect this tremendous bounce back when there hasn't been enough improvement to the utility of Bitcoin network, and there has certainly not been enough changes to the regulatory framework in China or Korea to justify a huge bounce? And now we arrive at one of the biggest saving graces for the Bitcoin world, an ETF. We've just gotten word that CBOE Global Markets has refiled another application with the SEC to be approved for a Bitcoin ETF or exchange traded fund. The ETF would allow for big institutional money to buy into Bitcoin with total regulatory clarity, with a total blessing by all the powers that be in the United States, and that would really open the floodgates for American institutional money to come into the market. Certainly one of the biggest forces that could lift the price of Bitcoin in the near term. Now that combined with more utility from the Bitcoin network, an ever-growing amount of Lightning nodes, an ever-growing amount of durability of the Lightning network, these things in collaboration will start to raise the price of Bitcoin. But obviously, we can't predict with certainty when the ETF may be approved. However, if approved, the ETF could be the first brick in the wall, building a much sturdier foundation for Bitcoin for the future. We would most likely have a ton of institutional money enter the market. Those primary brokers like CBOE would need to go and buy that Bitcoin somewhere, and all of it would spur more excitement and more attention in improving the underlying Bitcoin network. Obviously, all of the advancements around Bitcoin's network are very exciting, but to say that Bitcoin is ready to be a substitute for the US dollar and that everyone in the United States can just abandon their current payment systems and switch over to Bitcoin, I think it's just a bit premature to say that. There's nothing wrong with being fixated on the price of Bitcoin. A lot of people bought into this market as a speculative investor, and that's how you become more interested in the technology itself. Not everyone is just a tech nerd interested in tech developments. In fact, very few people are just driven strictly by the computer science aspects of these. Most people got into this market after buying a Bitcoin, holding it, and understanding more and more as time goes on as to why this technology is so groundbreaking. We all need to be very honest about what factors allowed for Bitcoin's price to blossom to the $20,000 level. We need to be honest about the factors that brought it back down to earth, and we need to understand the current state of progress of Bitcoin technology. Obviously, I would love it if Bitcoin were ready for global adoption, an ETF were approved, the Chinese government were to ease their regulation on crypto trading and allow their entire population to start freely buying Bitcoin again. I would love it if South Korea had already passed their ICO regulations and started regulating cryptocurrency exchanges as banks, but unfortunately, none of those things are quite true yet, and some of those things are patently false. Instead of just hoping to see green when we open up CoinMarketCap, let's hope to see progress with the ETFs, the Chinese regulations, the South Korean regulations, and of course, we should always be looking for advancements in the underlying technology, the Bitcoin network, and other amazing pieces of blockchain technology in the space. This segment is not intended to be negative. It's more intended to shed light on the things that I'm looking for to make actually true dynamic growth in the market. Because without these things, how can we just expect a moonshot when nothing's really changed? There hasn't been new value added. there's only been value really taken away since our last bull run. So I hope you'll join me in refocusing the often ambiguous discourse around price in our cryptocurrency community around more concrete objectives: ETFs, regulatory clarity, Chinese and Korean participation, and of course, useful advancements in the Bitcoin network. If you enjoyed today's video and you're not subscribed to this channel, I encourage you to hit that subscribe button and hit that little bell notification. You'll be made aware whenever we put out new content. As usual, my name's Elio Trades, you're watching FUD TV, and I'll see you very, very soon on the next episode.